All right. Well, Shiloh, I know you got some great news for us.
Yes, I passed.
Woo!
Yeah, so I had a little heartache to begin with, but made it through.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the struggle that you had originally for those who are watching, so that they can maybe prepare and how you overcame it.
So I did the online version, and I had the worst case scenario where you gear yourself up. I actually took the day off before and was 100% ready. Went through all the pre-tests on from the website and passed everything just fine. Got started, and I was about, I don't know, 20 minutes into the exam, and I looked up and my camera light was off. So I was pretty sure my camera wasn't on. But nobody said anything, so I just kept going, and it was a while, probably another 10 questions, and then finally somebody noticed that I didn't have a camera on.
Which is funny because normally they're on you, right? Normally those proctors are, hey, take your hand away, right?
Yeah, that's and that's what I had heard too. But apparently I had a one that was slacking a little bit. But anyway, they just chimed in and said, sorry to interrupt, but your camera's off. We'll have to restart the session and see if we can reconnect. And so did all that, restarted, popped up, another question popped up, and I looked up and my camera light blinked off, and they didn't even give me a second chance. They just terminated the whole thing. It didn't say a word either. It was just, you're done. So yeah. Then I went into, the mode on what do you do if you have technical issues, and I'll be honest. So they were very helpful nobody was kicking back on it, so they were very helpful. The only thing was they gave me a little bit of hope that I could still take the exam that evening. So I was still gearing up to do it, all the way up until about 1:45 in the afternoon, and I was scheduled at 8:30. They finally called me back and said the exam results had not gone in, so they couldn't do anything until that had happened, and everybody was leaving for the day. So the soonest anything could happen would be on Monday. And I had a ticket started and all that, but it was just, that's it, you're done. And then the cruddy part about it is the whole next week I had commitments, and there was no way I could take it again the next week. So it was almost 10 days later that I got it scheduled. Actually, it was probably a little bit more than that, like 13 days later. So they rescheduled, no cost, didn't count it against me or anything the first time. I did really badly the first time, which I imagine they counted all the ones I didn't do correct. So I think that's why. But
that makes sense. And I think we also talked about the fact that we felt that maybe this really wasn't a PMI issue. This was your camera.
Yes, I don't feel at all that it was anything to do with Pearson VUE, who did the online proctoring. It was not their programming or anything. My camera, I actually had reached up and I had adjusted my screen just a tiny little bit. And when I did that, that's when the camera blinked off. And so I was just having troubles with my camera and didn't know it. And so I went out and bought a camera that day, but I never was able to get back in. So I decided to, so that is good advice. Because, when you have a USB in, there's less likely for, your internal camera to fail. So, so I rescheduled and did the same thing. I didn't take the day off before, but it was scheduled later in the afternoon. I couldn't get the time I wanted, but it was fine. And went in and had no issues whatsoever. Everything went smooth. I never even heard a peep out of my proctor the entire time. They never said hi, nothing, and just went through the exam and passed. So
that's awesome. I'm so happy for you. So a lot of the times people want to understand, what does it take to get where you're at, right? Like, how much time did you put in during the week to study? And then how long did it take you before you actually sat for it, and thinking of the first time, right, with the type issues?
Yeah, I was probably a little behind the curve on starting this thing because I started cold. I didn't know much about what a PMP exam was until I decided that I was going to do this. So, it had been a goal for a long time, but I had never really been serious about it. So, the 7-day course was I could have never done it without it. Reading the manual was hard. And so I don't even know, I ordered it. And even though everybody said don't, I still ordered it. And I stopped reading it, and I probably only read it very little of it. And I just completely just did the questions with you guys and did the course. And that's all I needed. But I did take my time, and I made sure that I understood as I went along. So I started in, I think it was March, if I remember right. And then, a week ago, I took the exam. So
yeah, it's like 8 weeks.
Months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that, yeah. So what's like the biggest takeaway for you as far as, the program and utilizing it to help you pass this test?
Well, I love how he just broke it down so simple. That's the way I visualize and learn anyway. So it made so much sense to me as I went through it, and he's explaining it. And I did memorize. I couldn't stop myself. So I memorized like the whole flows and all that. I had little flashcards and made sure I completely understood it. And I felt really good, going into it, that I had learned as much as I possibly could. However, I felt like I was behind on Agile because my whole world is waterfall. That's what I work in. And so I did feel like I was a little behind in Agile.
And how did you overcome that?
I just think Agile makes sense. I didn't think it was a hard concept. So I felt like I was behind because they would ask me some things every once in a while that I didn't know because it was new to me. But the whole concept of Agile makes a ton of sense. It's actually way easier than waterfall and to learn and stuff. So
yeah, I agree. So if somebody's thinking about taking their PMP, what would you tell them?
I would say don't spend too long on it. I think 2 months is probably about right, or less. I think you could probably do it less if you had more time to put into it. Go through that. Just don't worry too much about the questions. I didn't really worry about I didn't do great on the questions as I went through. But I wasn't worried about it because I knew I didn't know the material yet. So don't worry so much about how you're scoring as you go. And get through the 7 days, understand it, and then worry about the questions. And then when I did get questions wrong, I went back and made sure I understood why I got them wrong. I mean, that's great advice. So I felt pretty good going into it. So
good. Yeah, that's one of the key things we say is, go back through and do your own self audit on your exams that you're taking, right?
That's
awesome.
And one more thing, and for students that are asking about the actual questions, there's no doubt that it's a lot. A marathon, that's what everybody refers to it. It is a lot. And I went in with a plan on my time, and I stuck to it. I would read a question. The way this course teaches you how to answer questions is great, to be honestly. And I was just very assertive at it. I went through, and if I didn't feel like I liked the answer, I flagged it. And I went through the whole thing, the whole 60 questions. And each time I got done with my 60 questions, I had about 20 minutes of my allotted time left. And I never felt rushed. I stuck to the plan, went back took the whole time, going back through questions and making sure I was pretty comfortable with the way it is. And then when I hit submit, I just moved on. So.
That's good. That's good feedback. So I wanted to see if Steve or Lily have any questions for you now that you're a certified PMP and you just took your exam and passed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have a question. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So I wanted to see I know that you mentioned about 8 weeks. How many times would you say, like, you went through the 7-day accelerator course? Or was it, you mentioned like you kind of went through it slow, but did you just kind of like repeat those like certain sections, or did you go through, each like the 7 days 3 times, or was your approach on that?
No, that's a great question. I did it from start to finish and in a row. Never deviated from that. And then when I got to answering my questions, when I felt like I wasn't that I needed to go back and hit something, I would just watch those pieces because it's labeled pretty good in there. So I never did it all over again, but I did go back. Like I remember I was really confused about, I couldn't get it all straight in my head about the quality, all the quality matrices that, that you use to check quality. And so I went back and I rewatched it, and I was making notes until I knew that if there was a quality graph or chart that came up, I knew exactly what it was and why it was used. So that's kind of how I did it. If I felt like I was weak in an area, I just found that area and I just rewatched what I needed to rewatch out of it.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good approach, right? Because then you know where you would like to improve on, and you just keep attacking that area until you're super comfortable with it. It's a good approach on like almost everything too, like at work, and not only in this process in your journey to getting your PMP. So yeah, thanks for additional insight on that.
Yeah. How far are you, Lily?
So many years back, I did actually I passed my PMP, but I never kept up with like certificate. I wasn't in a career that required me to keep up with my
PDUs.
like CP. Yeah, exactly. So but kind of a lot of this stuff is a little bit still a little bit newer to me. It was less about agile, but I just kind of started, just kind of signed up, but like I'm really I've been kind of gung-ho on it, and any chance I can get, I'm listening in going through the video and everything. So I think I'm still on day one, but again, I'm making sure I'm reading up on the material that Kelly has provided, as well as then, making sure I'm very comfortable with like everything from day 0 and day 1 so far. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think I was talking to Scott, and I targeted for like more of like a 4 or 5 week mark. And I think for me, I feel like I'm tracking pretty well to it, considering like other work and also like family priorities too. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a good place. These sessions really help. I joined the sessions with Scott as well, and so like I think this is like it's just getting me into like understanding like the types of questions, how the approach is on these, like, and thinking through with everybody and talking through about, okay, well, yeah, all of these 3 of these answers could be correct, but like here's like what are your thoughts about that, and thinking through how to best answer these questions really is cool. So yeah, so long story short, but yeah, I feel good, and I'm excited, just like also hearing these stories about like from you, and also from the last session I joined last week. It's really exciting to hear that. And you're absolutely right about how it's, the course is very engaging, and it's relatable. And that's what it's sometimes boring when you're just like reading, but when you have that excitement in Scott's voice, and also like Kelly, I joined this is my 2nd session with Kelly. So, and I love like how the structure of everything is. So, yeah.
So Shiloh, what was you asking that for? I think you had some insight.
Well, yeah. So I was going to say, 2 things. Also, another thing came to mind, but the biggest thing is when you get to the end and you do the practice exams, it lets you know it'll tell you where you're weak on. And that's super helpful, because then you can go back and just target those areas and kind of, and catch back up. And for me, I took too long going through the accelerator. So I had to go back to day 1, or probably not day 1. Maybe it was day 1. Yeah. When it just breaks down the foundation of it and kind of get that back, in my head. So, and then the secondly that I was going to say too is I really found that the flashcards was extremely useful. The ones that I got mine from Amazon.
Yeah, that's where you get them from, right here. Scott's
Yeah.
Flash. Let me see if I can do this. These are amazing. You can just sit in bed at night. You can flip through them. They're really, really good.
There's information in there that is not in, maybe it's in the content and I missed it. I'm not sure, but there's information in those flashcards that I found very useful. It just kind of, especially on the agile part of it.
Yeah.
That when I started doing the agile on that's when I really felt like I had a better feel or understanding of agile. So.
Yeah, I need to check on my flashcards. I should have just looked on Amazon. I did order through the site even before I signed up to take the course. So I might need to, I checked my mailbox yesterday, so maybe I check it again.
Yeah,
I love that.
The welcome email I sent you, there's a link right to those flashcards if you don't have them.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Sometimes I feel like you said, like it's nice to sit in bed and just like flip through them. I like the, certain things I like the hard copies. Other things I'm like, oh, I could just flip through it. But yeah, in the meantime, I think that's a good idea to do that. But I'm like, oh, I can't wait to flip through them and like test my knowledge that way. And just kind of like a book sometimes. And like having to hold a book and reading a book is different than like Audible or like anything or like like an online version or something like that.
So Steve, do you have any questions for Shiloh?
Congrats, Shiloh.
Thank you, Steve.
For you.
Thank you.
I mean, I think you already answered all the questions through Lily's. You already give me all the insight through Lily's question. I don't have any. Congratulations, and I wish you nothing but luck for nothing but the best on your next journey with your PMP. Thank
you, and I wish you the best, and I know I'm confident in the coursework. So you guys will do great. It's nerve-wracking. There's no doubt about it, but I scored really high. So the content works. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
thank you so much, Shiloh, and congratulations. I'm so excited for you, and your journey's over. You got your life back, and you're certified PMP now.
Yeah, yay. All right, thank you. Right, bye.